Hey, welcome to Film Fanatics, three film geeks discussing movies, both new and old. My name is Dan.
My name is Justin.
And I'm Joe.
This week, some real-life dramas hit the big screen with Antonio Banderas as the leader of trapped Chilean miners in The 33. Carey Mulligan helps in a revolt to get British women the vote in Suffragette, and Aaron Eckhart coaches a football hopeful in My All-American. We'll also review the multi-generational Christmas comedy Love the Coopers, and another real-life drama in our home media moment, Queen Latifah, in the HBO original movie Bessie. And as such, we're actually going to devote our top 5 to HBO original films, which we've already reviewed a few on this show, and we'll probably tell you about some others then as well. And we also have our double feature of older films, including Listener's Choice, What Women Want, and a war picture for the Oscar A to Z called Battleground. First up is The 33, and that's going to be with Joe.
What a treasure. The 33. Or is it the 44? No, there actually were 33. He counted them.
Yeah.
It was pretty good. But anyway.
Yeah, they got the numbers right.
No, he made sure to count, and I did like that part. Now, The 33 is apparently an English-language Chilean survival drama directed by Patricia Reagan. Have either of you heard of her before?
Nope, she's a newcomer.
Okay, newcomer. The film was based on the real events from 2010, the mining disaster in Chile, in which a group of 33 miners, obviously, are trapped in a San Jose mine in Chile for more than 2 months. The film stars Antonio Banderas as Super Mario Sepulveda, who sent videos to the rescuers to notify them about the miners' condition throughout the rescue. Now, this film is probably best described as feeling like a rather expensive made-for-TV film. It has a pretty good cast and uses a good combination of music, lighting, and set design to create some really good tension in the action scenes, and even a few truly, really powerful scenes. A struggling alcoholic and his priest come to mind. However, most of the film comes off a bit fluffy and conventional. What's worse, it isn't even able to keep that up throughout most of its run, since most of the tension is lost after the miners are found. Add in a few underdeveloped story arcs and limited characterizations, it does its job, but with little else to offer, I leave it with a C+.
Okay, Justin?
Well, made-for-TV movie basically sums this up perfectly, Joe. I remember when this was happening and seeing daily how it was progressing. But as a movie, a story with this much promise just leaves so much to be desired. Now, I don't blame the 33 for not giving exposition to every character, but at least give these people a reason not to become stereotypes and caricatures. It's literally take any survival film, and the character tropes are probably in this somewhere. The alcoholic, the outsider, the guy trying to maintain the peace. They're all here. The priest. And it just ruins all these moments for compelling drama. Now, from a technical aspect, the 33 actually has some really cool moments. The lighting is really awesome at times, and the way they establish profiles with that is great. The problem is, at 2 hours, that's just not nearly enough to hold it together with more than a handful of really odd scenes and one moment of magical realism that just fails miserably.
That was very strange.
It was ridiculously strange. The story is still interesting. It's just really, really underdeveloped. I leave the 33 with a very average C.
Yeah, this is obviously not the film that these men deserve.
Yeah.
It's not horrible, but like you both said, there are a lot of problems. And you guys didn't mention this, but I get that they want to appeal to a mass audience, but I'm sorry, this film should have been told in Spanish with subtitles.
Yeah.
I found it very hard to view as realistic when everyone was speaking in English except the one field reporter on the TV station, really which may or may not have been a real newscast, because they had the Anderson Cooper stuff, and they had a lot of Matt Lauer. Uh-huh. So he may not have even been an actor. That may have just been a real news report. Mm-hmm. So that really bothered me. But there is also too much going on, so we really only get to know a couple of the guys. And Justin's right. You can't give exposition and background to 33 different people, but at least give us something more than we got. I see what they were trying to do with the fantasy sequences, sort of giving us a little bit of insight into certain characters, but I didn't think that was handled very well.
Well, it starts off seeming almost like comical, and then it gets really sad, but I'm not really sure how to feel about it.
Yeah, it just...
It's all over the place.
It wasn't handled the right way. But I think the story is riveting, obviously. But Joe, you said it. Once they sort of find out that they're still alive, the movie goes on for like another hour.
I just kept waiting. Can you save them already?
Yeah, I understand, that the families were very frustrated and that, oh, this technique didn't work, so let's try this. But that last hour could have easily been condensed maybe by half.
Easily.
Definitely.
Banderas gives a decent performance, a little bit hammy at times.
Yeah.
But I'm with Justin. It's a straight C for me.
Straight C.
Not what they deserve, I feel like.
Probably not. Though,
Not quite.
What'd you guys think about the ending with their little, reunion with all of them? Was that a little
Cute.
Was that,
No, I enjoyed that, actually.
I thought that was interesting that, for a stretch out of the whole scene was to see that they're all doing okay. And I will admit, I don't think I've seen really that much genuine happiness on so many men's faces at once.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they were just, you could tell they were all very happy to be here.
Yeah, I like that they included that.
I mean, I would have at least liked some sort of epilogue, more or less like what we get in most stories like this. Like, okay, here's what happened afterwards.
What they did after.
Yeah, like one or two
sentence
sentences.
Yeah, that would have been nice, but to be fair, a lot of them might have, well, they did give us something. They were never compensated.
Yeah,
their company was never.
The company was never
depressing.
No, honestly, that
Yeah.
made me really mad, and then I think that's why they decided to show, hey, they're all happy and they're all together and they're friends, which is something, though.
Yeah.
I can't believe that mine completely got away scot-free.
I know.
That's
Bad guys win.
that's a no. I think that
Corporate, lawyers win, I guess. Justin would be maybe the more appropriate.
yeah. I mean, there were
Sad
bad.
yet, unfortunately, true.
Yeah.
Bad people, probably won, but they still saved the people. That's still the positive.
Yeah,
thing to
they're
take
all
away.
alive, and that's really a miracle.
Yeah, it really is. People pulled together. I think the heart, the message is still there, but the ending is a little bit of a
Bittersweet.
downer. Yeah, bittersweet.
It is, and it's a shame that that's really what happened. But Joe, did the Spanish language thing bother you?
I mean, I could see that it was being adapted for an American audience, so it didn't really bother me that much. Though I feel like if it was in Spanish, it would have felt more genuine. Mm-hmm. And the problem was that they're speaking in English, but of course they're talking about really, South American things.
They really are.
So can I get some empanadas and like this? I know this. This was actually written by Hispanic people. I checked,
Okay.
but it still seemed
That's good.
painfully corny, and I
Right.
just a little forced.
Well, and
on.
obviously, Banderas is the real McCoy.
Of course.
Lou Diamond Phillips. I mean, there's people
I know.
of the right
Yeah,
descent,
no,
but
I don't know. I think it would have been better if a lot of it was in Spanish, or maybe 50-50 or something. Because English is a pretty common language down there, but
Yeah, it is. But I feel like if you're a miner and you're with other miners all day, you're probably speaking Spanish if you're in Chile.
it's true.
Mm-hmm. All right, well, let's move on here. Up next is Suffragette, and that's with Justin.
Carey Mulligan plays Maud Watts, a factory worker trying to make ends meet by enduring the appalling advances of her boss. However, as she gradually starts coming across the radical foot soldiers of the feminist movement, organized by Edith, played by Helena Bonham Carter, Maud slowly becomes entrenched into the underground world of activism for the women's right to vote.
About to say for the win.
Or for the win. Brendan Gleeson also stars. Suffragette's Oscar bait, but is it good Oscar bait? Yes, but not quite to the aspirations that it wants to be. Carter and Mulligan continue to give outstanding performances in feature films, but the film's overall emotional effectiveness is only about 50-50, with so many scenes trying to purposely tug on the heartstrings, drive up the intensity, and incorporate way too much shaky cam during these powerful riot scenes, where it's incredibly difficult to keep up with what exactly is going on. The story's good, but it also comes off as forced a lot. But overall, it's a good movie. The performances are easily the best part of it. Didn't much care for the Meryl Streep borderline cameo appearance, but
Yeah.
it is what it is. I just feel like I saw the outtakes of a much better movie. I leave Suffragette with a B.
Well, you're right that Mulligan's performance and a few of the others are the best part of the film, but it really is a disgrace to say that, to even say that Streep supports. She's on the poster, she's on the campaign promotional trail for this movie. This is hardly a cameo. She's in half of one scene. And you said it, Justin. I mean, that's just ridiculous. How do you have Streep in your movie, especially when she's promoting the hell out of it, and not even give her more than a minute and a half of screen time? That really bothered me. Because it's not like she's a nothing character.
No.
I mean, she's the head of the revolution.
I know.
They give her nothing
Give
to do.
her a scene. I get that she's in hiding. Give her a scene with wherever she's hiding, at her house or whatever, something more than what we got. So that really irked me. Aside from that, I don't really understand Maud's insanely quick turnaround on her decisions. It's like the beginning of the movie, she's like, well, I can't do this. And then she sees a woman throw a rock through a window, and then the next day she's like, yeah, let's go ahead and do this.
A little much, yeah.
It's a little much. I mean, she's risking literally everything on a whim.
Well, I guess they have to rush things into film.
They do, but, again, there could have been different pacing.
A few scenes, maybe.
Yeah, a few scenes. A lot of stuff at work.
Yeah.
With the seamstresses and whatnot. And also, other than Bonham Carter's husband, every man in the whole movie is basically a caricature. The evil boss that's sleeping, with the woman, and the evil judge that's, we can't, have that.
And of course, evil Paddington.
And evil Paddington, evil Gleason. Everyone's evil.
All men are evil.
Except the women and Bonham Carter's husband.
Yep.
Always the danger in a film like this.
Pretty much, yeah. No, I was very disappointed with this movie. Though I have to say, I still wouldn't be surprised if Mulligan got a Best Actress nod. I think she's usually good in everything, and she is the best part of this film. I leave Suffragette with a C+.
Oh,
Joe?
So much. Well, I want to just point out and say that I'm actually getting more and more impressed by Mulligan. I think that she's a great actress, and I like seeing her in these films. I think that she can really lead more, and I think she still stands out giving a good performance here. I think she's really showing that consistency, and I think she's got a knack for the period pieces too. That seems to be something she fits in well. And I like Bonham Carter, of course. I do think the performances were good, but I do think that some of those scenes did drag. Even though I liked the way some of them were shot, I do agree the shaky cam was a bit much. I understand.
Oh, it's ridiculous at times.
It was a bit much, but I don't know. I think that the best way to describe it is it's definitely got some interesting historical aspects that I feel like there definitely could have been a better film here, but it just feels very forced and hammy, and it's just a little too obvious for that Oscar bait. It kind of bugged me. It really did. And the Streep thing, I guess I didn't know how much she was being promoted with it, but I did feel that for as big a name as she was barely, and it was very strange.
They show almost her entire role in the preview.
I was going to say.
Yeah, I was expecting her to be, a little bigger.
And then she's been hitting, the talk show circuit and stuff, promoting it. It's like, you're really not in this movie.
Not really.
It's like Kelsey Grammer doing the promotional tour for Entourage.
Yeah.
Is what it's like.
Well, he basically did. He was one of the main staples of the trailer. No, I'm actually in between you guys on this one. I leave it with a B-.
Okay.
That's fair.
It is certainly Oscar baity, but I think we've seen worse.
Oh, definitely.
I could even argue that the 33 was kind of trying to get into the Oscar season in its own way.
No, I mean,
it was trying.
Sadly, I think they were trying.
Yeah, I mean, when they were starting to consider like Oscar candidates, I know that was like on the short list. So
really,
yeah, a little bit. I mean, I know Entertainment Weekly was like this could be a force to be reckoned with, but not quite.
Typically, if you're releasing an historical drama in November or December, you're trying to get that Oscar.
Oh yeah,
I would think. Yeah, this one just didn't really cut it. But you did bring up an interesting point about Mulligan. Other than Shame, I don't know if I've seen her in a modern day movie.
I know I haven't.
Gatsby,
Wall Street,
Madding Crowd.
I guess Money Never Sleeps. I do forget about that all the time. That terrible Wall Street too. Yeah, Gatsby, The Madding Crowd. Obviously this. Education takes place in the 60s.
I was going to say.
So, yeah, I mean, Money Never Sleeps is such a terrible movie. That goes right over my radar every time.
Sorry.
But you're right, she was in that, and that was present day. But, yeah, I think her bread and butter kind of is... She's sort of like maybe a Winslet in that regard, that she does very well with the period pieces. Bonham Carter was really good, too.
Oh, my gosh,
she usually is.
She is, but I so rarely see her out of the...
Tim Burton's
wheelhouse. I mean, the only thing I can really remember is King's Speech.
I was going to say.
She was also great in.
Oh, fantastic.
But other than that, I can't think of too many.
Fight Club?
Oh, I forgot she was in that.
Oh, yeah, she's done a lot of diverse stuff.
True.
I mean...
that was sort of before all the Burton stuff, though.
Yeah.
Right at the beginning.
Yeah.
She's one of my favorites, actually. She's in Merlin.
Is she?
Yeah.
Oh, well, you do love that.
She's Morgan Le Fay.
What was the one? I guess Les Mis. She was in Les Mis
Yes,
as well.
yeah.
That certainly isn't Burton. Although she was being, like, weird.
Burton-y character, though.
Yeah, she really was. She's being super quirky. But no, I thought she was great in this. I wouldn't be surprised, actually, if she got a supporting nod.
I could definitely see it.
Me too.
Yeah.
I could agree.
All right, well, up next we have Love the Coopers. Based in Pittsburgh, 4 generations of the Cooper family come together for their annual Christmas Eve celebration, though a series of unexpected visitors and unlikely events turn the night into a very memorable one. The all-star cast includes John Goodman, Diane Keaton, Alan Arkin, Ed Helms, Marissa Tomei, Olivia Wilde, Amanda Seyfried, and Anthony Mackie, among others. Steve Martin voices the narrator's part. In just the latest in a string of films revolving around various holidays where too many characters get swallowed up in an overcomplicated narrative, thus satisfying no one, Love the Coopers is the worst yet. The stories that sort of converge are not funny, the script isn't funny, none of the situations seemed at all realistic, none of the dialogue really rang true. There's... This is such a small thing in this movie, but it really bothered me. The age of these characters does not coincide in the least with the actors portraying them. Ed Helms talks about how he had his son when he was in high school, meaning he was probably no more than 18. The son's like 16. Ed Helms is like 45.
I was going to say.
Not 31. So that didn't make sense. And then Tomei is supposed to be Diane Keaton's 7 or 8 year younger sister. Your hot Aunt May. Just own it. Unless they're pretending Diane Keaton's 55, which that's not happening either. So that bothered me. They make fun of dementia at one point. There's a quote-unquote twist at the end that makes no sense and is really stupid.
It's just weird.
This is an easy F for me. Justin?
We get these every single year. This is just another one to the fire. I feel like there's a couple potentially funny moments if the audience is willing to have incredibly low standards. But the biggest problem isn't the lazy story or forgettable acting. It's the fact that there's just way too many people to follow throughout this freaking movie. It's pretty much painful to keep up with who is where, doing what, with whom, and why we should care about them. And it takes so long to get back to them that it's maddening keeping it all straight. There were a couple moments where I was curious to see where I was heading, and I feel like for a Christmas cash grab movie, you can certainly do worse. I've definitely seen worse, but it's just not good. I leave Love the Coopers with a D-.
Why not an F?
Because I realize this is a Christmas cash grab movie being a Christmas cash grab movie. Is it shameless? Yes. Is it still doing its job? Pretty much.
Wow.
I mean, I like Christmas movies, and I wasn't sold on at all. Joe?
So some pretty low expectations, I guess. Well, I can't really follow it. I had a really hard time staying awake in this movie. I was really trying to follow along, but I got confused about what was going on all the time because there's too many characters. I had no idea. Plus, I agree. I don't think I chuckled much at all. It's one of those situations where I was laughing because I just couldn't believe how bad this was.
Yes, the last hour of this movie, I did have a smile on my face, but it was because I could not believe that this existed.
It's just one of those sort of things God, this is so bad. It's just a colossal failure in so many ways, and I really wanted to like it, but it's always a shame when you've got a lot of great people just shoved into a movie like this, when, you could have axed 3 storylines.
Yeah.
Easy. Just given up, and the twist is just bizarre.
Yeah, the twist is really stupid.
Didn't get it. I thought I was incredibly bored in this one, but you told me to see it, so I did.
Well, you had to.
So I have to give it an F.
Oh, yeah.
It was really bad movie.
I don't know who wouldn't. Oh.
Well, he's on the line. He's on the line.
You know what?
Come on. You've had 17 movies this year. This is terrible.
It's a train wreck. You know what?
Do it.
The heck with it. This was an F. We'll bring it full circle.
Yeah.
Add another one to the file.
Look, this movie... I don't like these movies that have all the different people, and they always get famous people. That's what bothers me the most. De Niro signs on for what was it, New Year's...
Valentine's Day, I think. Was it New Year's Eve?
I think it was New Year's Eve.
I think it was New Year's Eve, and the Valentine's Day had Anne Hathaway and other people, and Julia Roberts, I think, was in Valentine's Day, actually.
Yeah. Yep.
There's always too many people. You could have easily taken Amanda Seyfried right out of this movie.
Easily.
She doesn't belong in the family, and what happens with her character at the end is useless and doesn't need to be there. So that's one you can lift right out. And they kept going back. I would say the main focal point of this film, for some reason, is Olivia Wilde and Jake Lacey. They're in like
knows?
every third scene.
I didn't
Basically.
get that either, yeah.
You know, and I mean, Goodman and Keaton are there sort of secondary, but like Marissa Tomei, we'll go a half hour, and she's still having the same conversation. It's like a soap opera. We go back to her, and she's still having the same conversation with Anthony Mackie, who is terrible in this.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
He was one of the few things holding Our Brand is Crisis together. I mean, it's still just barely scraped by on that one, but he's awful in this.
Well, maybe he understood it was cashing it in, so.
Well, they didn't really give him much to do.
They didn't, but I don't know. He could have at least tried to have a little bit of fun with the role.
Be like in,
Goodman was trying to have fun.
yeah.
And I feel like that's the main reason they are able to get all these famous people, because it's like, okay, you can have all these like serious roles, but take a nonsense thing like this where it's just okay, let's all get together, spend a couple months together, have fun, collect a paycheck, and la-di-da.
Yeah, but most of the people in this movie,
Don't need that paycheck.
well, they don't need the paycheck, but they're known for more comedic roles. It's not like Ed Helms is doing hard-hitting drama and he thought, I want to do a Christmas movie to lighten it up.
He should, though.
I mean, the last thing he did was Vacation, and the thing before that was We're the Millers, and, you know,
Agreed.
I mean,
Yeah.
he just... So, you know, and Goodman doesn't really do a lot of drama. Most of the things, I mean, Argo, he was the comic relief. Flight, he was the comic relief. Llewyn Davis, he's the comic relief. He does a lot of comedic roles.
Well, to be fair, he's usually comic relief in dramas, though.
That's true, and this is
Yeah.
silly. By the way, that little annoying girl,
Oh god.
that joke fell so flat from the word go. That was terrible. And we've talked about this on the show before. God. Can Diane Keaton say yes to a role without having to sing?
Nope.
I'm done. I'm done with the singing.
Well, don't you know, back in Annie Hall, man, she could sing.
Yes, she could. And then 30 years later,
No, you
40
can't.
years later, she's still trying to sing in every single movie. I'm done with that.
She didn't do that for a long time. It's been happening lately.
Yeah, last
don't-
like 3, I think.
I don't know what's up with that.
curse you, and so it goes.
Justin, let's hear about My All-American.
Oh, you guys can talk about this one.
Oh dear. Clarius. Finn Whitrock plays Freddie Steinmark, a talented young football star.
Are any of those even names? Like, what odd names?
What's the name again?
Freddie Steinmark.
No, the actor's name.
Oh, Finn Whitrock.
Finn Whitrock? Come on.
I'm not making this up.
I know
gentlemen.
you're not. This is ridiculous.
But he holds talented football star stereotype with big dreams. Shocker. His talents draw the attention of the legendary University of Texas coach Darrell Royal, played by Aaron Eckhart.
Wait a minute, you're telling me he's a legend?
He is a legend.
Okay.
Not the legend, Joe,
Okay.
but a legend. And soon, Freddie becomes an integral part of the team, until everything goes tragically awry. Good writers don't always mean good directors, and that's quite possibly My All-American's biggest problem. Clarius yet again misses the mark with a story that's basically a mishmash of every sports movie cliche imaginable. The endless amount of let's see the whole team bond in the most cliche way humanly possible, random anecdotes that go absolutely nowhere, and of course the completely tacked on let's tug on the heartstrings and hope that you've had some emotional attachment to these characters. The acting is borderline laughable at times, and the running time just drags on and on. I'll give it a couple points for at least staying true to the sports movie format, and some of the action's okay. It's just another disaster of a movie courtesy of Clarius. I leave My All-American with a D.
And to clarify, because you've said Clarius like 8 times, Clarius, we've talked about this on the show before, they have brought us 3 of the worst movies of the last couple of years. The Legends of Oz. Speaking of Diane Keaton, they brought us And So It Goes. And the, what was the other one with Eckhart and Nicole Kidman?
Before I Go to
Before
Sleep.
I Go to Sleep, yes.
With Mark Strong.
Oh, yeah. So these are all terrible movies. I've never given any one of them higher than a D+, and My All-American is no different. There's absolutely nothing new or interesting here. The acting is really bad, and even Eckhart really isn't giving much. I mean, he's just phoning it in hardcore.
He's phoning it in, but he's giving more of an effort than anyone else in this movie.
That's because he's the only professional actor in the movie, Justin.
That's probably fair.
He's been in another movie. These other people are just...
Finn Whitrock? No?
yeah, that's
coming off of that I Am Frankenstein, man. Count off.
Oh my gosh. Well, I was thinking more Two-Face, but
That was a while ago, though.
but at least it was a real movie.
It was a legitimate.
You know. Look, it's a nice story, but it is one of the most safe milquetoast films I have ever seen in my life.
Toast.
It doesn't ring out any emotional impact, and much like the 33, I feel like this guy, this football star that lost his leg and all this, deserves such a better movie. I leave My All American with a D+.
So Caviezel still wins.
Yeah, well, no, I liked Woodlawn better than Caviezel.
Oh, that's right.
Only slightly, though.
Okay.
Yeah,
Why,
Woodlawn was good.
Why D+? I mean,
Well,
over
because
D.
like you said, I mean, it does stick to the formula. It's not like, it's nothing new, but it's not like... I mean, I wasn't bored with it. I like football movies, I think, more than you do. But, I didn't get any emotional aspect from it. But,
No,
I mean,
not.
they told the story okay. I mean,
that's true.
I thought the pacing of it was okay. It was maybe a little bit long, I'll give you that. But I will say this, as I was watching it, I did think about the comment you made about Woodlawn, that the football, the game shots were just, directed horribly in this. I thought this, I mean, I would have to go back in Woodlawn and see about that for myself, but I thought the shots of them, like, playing and stuff and practicing were okay.
Yeah, they were passable.
Yeah, I thought the movie wasn't directed horribly. It just didn't give me anything new to hang my hat on. I mean, you could see, really, Caviezel in When the Game Stands Tall, or Rudy, or so many other, or, Woodlawn just 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
They give you a better thing, but it's not, like, horrible,
With maybe the exception of the atrocious CGI at the end.
Well, that was bad. Well, the guy lost his leg, so... Is that what you're referring to?
No, I was referring to the stadium, actually.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's true, I guess.
CGI Stadium?
Yeah.
They don't have enough money to pay, 40,000 extras. And
So they made like
so
a
they just sort of
painfully
made
bad CGI recreation.
mock.
Honestly, you could probably get like a decent old model of one, and it would look better.
Yeah, I could see that.
To be honest.
Well, I would say, sadly, this is probably my favorite of all the Clarius movies.
Then again, that wouldn't take much.
It really wouldn't. That's very true. All right, well, let's move into our home media moment, and we're going to do a whole string of HBO films in our top 5 coming up. But the one for this week is Bessie. Joe?
Bessie is an HBO TV film about the legendary blues singer Bessie Smith and focuses on her growth and transformation as a struggling young singer into the Empress of Blues. And the film was directed by Dee Reese. Is that the name?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Dee Reese.
The film was directed by Dee Reese. Okay. Now, Queen Latifah stars as Smith. Overall, I found the story to be, fairly conventional, but there was a lot of atmosphere to it. And once again, I have to always give props for historical accuracy. I thought the costumes were great, lighting was great, and it didn't really have any major problems. And the biggest standout for me, though, really, which kind of kept it up, was Latifah herself. I mean, of course, she's a great singer, and I think she's kind of, honestly, a little bit of an underappreciated actress. I
agree.
I just feel like
Definitely.
she totally owns this role, and I think the supporting actors do a pretty good job as well. And really, they bring the story to life, and they capture the struggle of fame and the difficulty of her life, but also the power of it. Just in some of those scenes, it's just remarkable. And like I said, overall, those stories conventional, but there's a lot about the execution that's better than average for certain. I leave this one with a B+.
Okay, Justin?
Well, I mean, this is another great case of thank goodness for HBO films. Because we get stuff like this. I mean, Latifah just channels Smith so beautifully and really makes the film pop.
Yeah.
The production value is fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
The songs are great. I do feel like it gets a little too heavy on the musical interludes at times. But the only real major criticism I have over some of the other great entries in HBO's repertoire is I think it bounces around a little too much.
A little bit.
Jumping from doing all these time jumps, and while I see where it's heading, and I mean it's definitely conventional in terms of musical biopics.
Very.
It's still got its own attitude, which I like. And
It definitely has its own identity for sure.
thank you. That's a very good way of putting it. But I mean, for all those minor setbacks, it's still a great original film for HBO. I leave it with a B+ as well.
Yeah, Latifah really steals the show in this. I mean, I do agree, Joe. I think she's an underrated actress. I actually kind of think she's an underrated singer, too.
Yeah.
I mean, her biggest hits were in the rap game, like, 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And, she's released jazz albums. She's obviously been on the soundtracks to Chicago and Hairspray and other films. But she really is great here. She was perfect for the role. And neither of you mentioned Monique. I think she continues to prove that heavy drama is actually her forte.
Yeah.
I mean, she was funny, in her stand-up and everything, but between this and Precious, I mean, she really is great at these hard-hitting drama roles. And it is a great story filled with interesting characters. However, my main issue with it is that unlike most HBO films, it does fall prey to just about every music biopic convention there is. And Justin mentioned the montages. That's definitely part of it. I mean, I feel like we maybe have a little too many of those to sort of pad it and stretch it out a little bit. And just sort of the way the story is weaved sort of reminds me of a lot more conventional things. And it's not terrible, but I've come to expect a little bit more from HBO in that regard. So I leave it with a B+ as well. But most of the HBOs, I think, are in the A range for me. So not quite up to par with that. You won't be hearing it in my top 5. But I did think it was good.
Even though it's one of their lower ones, it's still pretty good.
It is. I mean, well, look, it's sort of like a Pixar. I mean, when you have a studio that typically churns out these really high-level... Anything. Yeah, I mean, for HBO, they do movies, obviously, and TV shows, and most of their TV shows are great as well. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, B+ is a little bit on the lower end, to be honest.
You can definitely tell that they spent some time on this, and the effort still shows, which I very much appreciate.
Oh, yeah, they spent a lot of money on it, and, the set designs and the costumes and everything prove that. I'm sure they paid Queen Latifah a pretty penny.
I also thought it was shot and edited really well, too.
It was edited very well.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Though,
Dan, I wanted to pick your brain on something real quick.
Okay.
We have these original movies that are usually from HBO on TV that are really, really good, and then we'll have HBO's films theatrically, like Entourage and Sex and the City. I feel like underwhelming is probably the best choice word. Why do you think that is?
Well, the first Sex and the City movie is very good.
No, I like
the second one is terrible. I think that in those examples, HBO was going for really a cash grab for a popular franchise that already existed. All of the movies that they have produced, I mean, there have been a couple of sequels here and there, but most of them are original material, many of them based on, true events.
Right.
But, most of them are original material. And it sort of harkens back to, I would say, back in the heyday of, like, the 70s and 80s of big budget NBC movie of the week kind of stuff. You take, not necessarily ripped from the headlines the same like Law and Order would be, but, a hot topic of the year or whatever and make a movie about it. And they were some of the highest rated shows, that year or whatever. And I think HBO sort of has glommed onto that because, for the most part, the major networks don't produce original movies anymore.
That's true.
If anything, they're doing these live musicals now. That's like the hot new thing.
A lot of them do miniseries now.
And sometimes there's miniseries, but HBO does miniseries as well. Mm-hmm. They other than, like, I guess, PBS, Masterpiece Theater, still does movies and everything.
Right.
But, these are events. And because they're HBO, they run them, day and night, around the clock, so you have 25, 30 chances to see them in the month. I think for a theatrically released movie, especially for Entourage and Sex and the City, I think they're putting their biggest budgets into it, but they're not putting their heart into it.
So it's more or less rely more on brand association than actual, like, content.
Yeah, I mean, like, look, people are going to come out to see the Entourage movie that liked the show, and as they found out, that, I guess, wasn't as many people as they hoped for. But the Sex and the City movies both did very, very well.
Surprisingly.
And if they ever did make a Sopranos movie back when Gandolfini was alive, that would have done extremely well. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that they do a lot better on the smaller scale because they're more focused, and they have to. Because they're going to make their money back in a theatrical movie regardless.
Of course.
But on a Bessie, well, you're already subscribed to HBO. So
we're not losing any money.
Yeah, like, nobody's really going to subscribe to HBO just to get Bessie.
It's like anything else, like with Netflix. If you can prove to them there's a reason beyond having all this other stuff they run to be subscribed to them.
That's true. And, HBO has always been smart by releasing their movies on DVD or VHS, which a lot of the networks have not done. There's hundreds of TV movies that people haven't seen for 40 years because they've never come out. And I think HBO is smart in that regard, too. Well, with that, why don't we segue into our top 5? And this is the HBO original movies. And by that, we don't mean the Sex and the City variety. And if HBO Films, has attached to another mainstream studio to release a theatrical movie. These are all movies that were created for HBO and premiered there. So, Justin, let's start with you.
Going to kick mine off with an honorable mention. That would be Temple Grandin. Mm-hmm. Just a fantastic performance from Claire Danes. It's definitely not without its flaws, but it's a very, very good biopic. Number 5, Kurt Cobain, Montage of Heck. I don't want to talk too much about this because I'm sure we're going to probably cover it on Film Fanatics before the year's out, but really, really fascinating documentary. Great animation that goes with it, and awesome archive footage. Very much in reminiscence of Amy. Number 4, Behind the Candelabra. I mean, Liberace, and great performance from Michael Douglas and Matt Damon. Probably one of the more underrated biopics that have come out. Number 3, Going Clear, Scientology, and the Prison of Belief. This was one of those
I'd like to watch that before the year's out, too, by the way.
This is just one of those that was getting all sorts of good reviews, and I wasn't sure going in if I was going to like it because it was about Scientology, and then probably less than 2 minutes in, I was just hooked. It was really gripping, really absolutely terrifying, the role Scientology has embedded into society and the terrible loopholes that they've exploited. Just really riveting stuff. And number 2, You Don't Know Jack. Well, this almost restores my faith in Barry Levinson after making the atrocity that was Rock the Casbah.
Hey, he made this before Rock the Casbah.
He did. This was the reminder that somewhere in Levinson is still a great filmmaker. I'm just not entirely sure where he is right now. Al Pacino, once again, giving a great performance. Levinson's directing speaks for itself, and who can go wrong with John Goodman? Just a really, really great biopic about a very, very controversial subject.
Yeah. As most of their movies are.
Absolutely.
On HBO. All right, well, my honorable mention is actually You Don't Know Jack. I think Pacino gave a great performance, obviously. Jack Kevorkian is such an interesting person that has been in the news, for a long, long time. And I thought the portrayal was great. I thought the trial stuff was great. Just very interesting. My number 5 is If These Walls Could Talk. And this is one of the earlier entries into HBO's filmography. It's from 1996. Not the first, but one of the first to really have a big cast in it. Demi Moore's in this, Sissy Spacek, Cher, and a lot of, before they were famous people, Anne Heche, Matthew Lillard. But what's interesting about this is it doesn't quite hold up as well. It is pretty steeped in 90s stuff, and you could tell HBO Films wasn't quite there yet. But what's interesting about it is it's one of the only ones I can think of that is not based on an actual event or person.
So it's an original story.
It's an original story. It's actually 3 original stories. It's an abortion movie, and it takes place in the same house 22 years apart. So the Demi Moore story is in the 50s, Sissy Spacek's in the 70s, and the Cher and Jada Pinkett Smith one is in the 90s. Well, she was just Jada Pinkett then. But it's very interesting to see the sort of different takes on abortion in the different decades and how society viewed it and how families viewed it. It's very, very interesting. Number 4 is Grey Gardens. This is such a fantastic movie. It is campy for sure. So maybe it's not quite as well done as some of these others on the list, but it's a lot of fun, and Drew Barrymore and Jessica Lange are both fantastic. One of them, I believe, won an Emmy for Best Actress, and I think the other one was nominated, but just a great movie there. My number 3 is Behind the Candelabra. We've talked about that many times on the show, so I don't need to go into too much detail there, but really just a home run from every angle. All of the cast members give a great performance. And number 2 for me is Temple Grandin. I think it's possibly Claire Danes' best role Obviously, other than My So-Called Life. That's above and beyond everything ever. But I thought she just embodied this. And I hadn't seen Claire Danes in a long time before this movie. I think she had a minor role in Stardust. Other than that, I hadn't seen her for a long time. And this got a whole lot of buzz. It won the Emmy. She won the Emmy. And I watched it, and I totally could see why. It's a really, really great movie.
When did Temple Grandin come out?
2010, maybe?
Oh, okay. Yeah, it definitely was a while.
Like, shortly before Homeland.
Oh, wow.
Okay,
so yeah.
Joe, how about for you?
Well, HBO has a lot of great movies.
They do.
But, all right, I'll start off with an honorable mention, actually. Gotti, actually, was, of course, the story of John Gotti, starring Armand Assante. I will admit, I feel like the movie is a little bit cheesy at some points, but his performance is really good, I think, as Gotti, and trying to add some more humanization to this really iconic mafia figure. But an earlier HBO film as well. My number 5 would be, I don't know, Jack. Nothing really to add except that Pacino is, I don't know Jack at all, though. I don't. Do you?
Never mind, ignore me. Go on.
I do after watching that film.
No, you really do learn a lot, and I just think that it's really well-rounded. I mean, what else is there to say? Pacino's just fantastic in it, and I think that's really what blew me away. Number 4, unsurprisingly, is a mafia film as well, but really good one, Lansky. I don't know if you guys are familiar with it.
No, I don't know.
Go on.
It's actually the biography of Meyer Lansky, who is pretty much one of the founders of the American Mafia. He was basically the mafia accountant, and it's basically about all his dealings and him trying to struggle to maintain a semblance of a normal life because, unlike most of the other people that he was friends with or associated with, he never wanted to be involved with the violence. So the violence was always around him, but he was basically the linchpin that was holding the mafia together for like 30 years.
Oh.
So yeah, it's an underrated one. It came out like the late 90s. But number 3 is one that I watched very recently, and that was Grey Gardens.
Oh, God. So good.
It actually really intrigues me to look up the real documentary. Because I heard that,
I want to watch it as well.
Because that's like, that apparently was a really big deal when it came out. And I didn't know anything about these women or they're falling into this desolate situation and their relationship with each other. But I think the thing that blew my mind was that Drew Barrymore just did she's
amazing in this movie.
Like a great job. And I feel like it's almost like a second coming because it's the best role I've seen her give in a long time. And I thought
blended.
She was pretty good in this.
Yeah.
But it was the combination of her performance and the makeup. She looked younger than she's ever looked before, and also older. And I thought that was fantastic. It was really it was just.
No, I believe you.
The transformation was just like I was looking. Is this Drew Barrymore? She's playing someone who's like 20 years young. It blew my mind just what they were able to do. It was pretty awesome. And number 2 is, what is it?
Candelabra.
Behind the Candelabra.
Of course.
Because it's just hard to deny. Like this movie's just so fun and also really gripping and interesting. And I think that they show these really interesting men in their relationship. And again, great makeup.
Oh my gosh.
Man.
Scary.
Yeah.
Incredible.
But a lot of energy too. Another great movie.
All right. Justin, what is your number 1?
Well, no surprise here. The Normal Heart. I can talk a mouthful about my issues with Ryan Murphy, but I got to give him plenty of points for putting together such a powerful piece of filmmaking with this. Really great storytelling, incredible performances, absolutely heartbreaking at times. Truly HBO films at its finest.
Yeah. And like Joe, I actually forgot about some as well. So I'll have a second honorable mention, and that's the Brendan Gleeson movie, Into the Storm.
Oh, that's right.
Which I mentioned. I think it was in my Gleeson top 5. He plays Winston Churchill in it. It's just fantastic. But my number 1 is as well The Normal Heart. I almost gave it to Temple, but Normal Heart has such a great whole entire cast around it. Temple Grandin really is kind of the Claire Danes show. Ruffalo is amazing in this, and Julia Roberts, and really just the A-list cast to end all A-list casts, and it really is quite emotional. And of course HBO, no stranger to the AIDS stories. I never saw this. I was trying to make some time for it this week before we did this, but the band Played On,
Heard of it.
Really, really wanted to see from back in '93, Matthew Modine. That was sort of like the original HBO AIDS movie. But yeah, Normal Heart is fantastic. Joe?
Number 1 is
one and the same.
Is the average heart, the pretty standard heart,
the mediocre heart.
Yeah, it's just your run of the mill, heart. No, what else is there to say? It was a fantastic movie. I think it's Ruffalo's best performance.
I would probably say the same.
I thought it was just a great movie altogether.
And that scene where Julia Roberts is yelling at people.
That was pretty funny.
God, was that great. No, it wasn't funny.
It was funny?
No, it was very dramatic.
It was enjoyable.
Yeah, that really is a good movie. All right, well, very good lists all around. I'm looking forward every year, really, to doing one of these for an HMM, because they really always seem to knock it out of the park.
Really?
Yeah. So let's do our double feature of older films, and we kick that off with Listener's Choice, What Women Want. This is a Listener's Choice from Jorge, so we certainly thank him, and he's actually given us a few that hopefully we'll get to. Nancy Myers, who brought us this year's hit The Intern, directs this film, a 2000 romantic comedy starring Mel Gibson as advertising exec Nick Marshall, an alpha male who learns his new boss is a female, Darcy McGuire, played by Helen Hunt, and he has to prove himself to her by writing ad copy for some feminine products. While testing some of the products out, Nick slips and experiences an electrical shock that gives him the ability to hear what any female around him is thinking, including his estranged teenage daughter and a coffee barista he has interest in, played by Marissa Tomei. But most importantly, he can hear the thoughts of his new boss. Now, this is my second time around for What Women Want, and I remember it kind of fondly back in the day, a little bit less so on the second go-around, and I don't think it's because I'm not much of a Mel Gibson fan, because I have seen other of his movies in the last few years that I had not seen before that I enjoyed. I just never really thought that he was that set up for comedy. He's okay, but he's much better at drama, very good at action. But the comedies I've seen him in, he's not like a super versatile actor in that regard. So I sort of didn't love that. It's a little bit broad for him. You know, maybe he could do a little subtler comedy, but this is very broad stuff. I think there's too many women in his life in this movie.
Oh my gosh.
You know, Judy Greer shows up in a couple of scenes and he, like, you know, helps her not be suicidal because he can hear her thoughts, and, you know, Marissa Tomei and Helen Hunt. And I love the stuff with the daughter. That was fine. I actually could have maybe used a little bit more of that. I do think it's charming, but almost all of the humor lies when he can hear the women, not beforehand or after he loses his ability. So you've got maybe 15 minutes on either end where it's not quite as exciting. But it's okay. I leave it with a C+. Joe?
Yeah.
I think I would have said, like, I wasn't grading at the time, but I probably would have given it like a B originally.
Yeah, I remember liking this movie a lot more when I was younger. I thought it was a lot funnier. And I felt like a lot of the jokes were just a little too reliant on what they were. Like, ooh, he has to try on pantyhose, and that's going to help him understand what it's like to be a woman. I mean, maybe to some degree, but I thought that was a little too much. Also, I forgot how he got the ability, which somehow is just not that creative.
No.
I felt like there could have been something else they could have
It
come
is
up
different for Nancy Myers, I'll give her that. The more, you know, fantastical element.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, the stuff where you can hear the women's thought, it's funny. There is definitely some stuff that's timely there and understandable. I think the performances are all fine. But it's pretty conventional comedy stuff. You know, and I think that really what prevents it from being really terrible, though, is that there are a couple lines here and there that are really funny, but they're sporadic.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm a little higher than you. I leave it with a B-.
Okay.
I thought it was all right.
Justin?
Well, no.
First time through for you.
Yes. We'll see how that factors in. Well, I mean, this is one of the more renowned directorial efforts from Nancy Myers. Obviously, we've covered Baby Boom, which she was a producer on. But for this one, I'd always heard tell of how funny it was. I feel like you're right. When he doesn't have his abilities, it's just not quite there. But when we're like hearing all this stuff, it's a bit more compelling. You're curious to see how all these characters are playing in. I think one of the best gags is running across these two
Airheads.
Let's go with that.
Airheads,
and there's complete dead silence.
And they see you guys are exactly the way you are all the time.
Yeah, that was funny.
Yeah.
It's definitely not Gibson's contemporary antics that are pulling it down. I understand where you're coming from in terms of comedy not being his forte. I feel like with Gibson, he needs another genre to sort of lean into that. Like with Lethal Weapon,
he's funny in that.
He's very funny, but he's got like usually like an action stunt or something along those lines that sort of helps lean lead into that.
It's more like physical comedy too.
Occasionally slapsticky, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Action
with
heavy.
with the second one, which is got one of the best gags, Danny Glover on the toilet.
Well, and I feel the same way, speaking of the Lethal Weapon franchise, about Joe Pesci.
Yes.
I think Joe Pesci can be funny, but he needs something else to do. Like Home Alone, he's hysterical,
Yeah.
but that's because it's a lot of physical comedy.
That's
and,
true.
You know.
Yeah.
I also feel like because of the gimmick, which is for the most part effective, it's definitely silly. I also feel like there's a little too much going on at times, and because there's so many different potential romantic interests, we just keep getting pelted with more and more subplots and arcs, and I think at 2 hours it basically becomes overkill. With more than a handful that could probably be cut and have a stronger story. And I felt like the ending was a little bit safe.
It's Nancy Myers.
It
know,
is.
that's to be expected, I think.
But it's sweet, and for the most part, it's fun. I'm with Joe. I leave it with a B-.
Yeah, I feel like I gave The Intern a B-, and I did not enjoy this quite as much as The Intern. So I did have to knock it down a little bit for that. But I feel like these leading men in the Nancy Myers movies are typically suited better for comedy. Like, De Niro's very funny in The Intern, and It's Complicated had, Steve Martin and Alec Baldwin.
That's true.
One of Justin's favorites.
Oh, so great.
When he thinks comedy, he thinks Baldwin.
More like tragedy.
But it's interesting. I don't know. Maybe Joe, it's a little bit dated as well.
That's what I was picking up on,
because I do remember liking it a bit more than this.
Well, I think that's also because of how far we've come in terms of just accepting like the idea of gender roles and everything.
That's true.
15 years later, it's a little different.
Metrosexual.
Plus, with social media, like figuring out what people want, it's a lot easier to get a poll now.
That's interesting. Yeah, you can just pull up somebody's Twitter feed and get their their thoughts.
Let's put an announcement for our company, and we'll draw some statistics from that. It's like, I do agree, it's a little bit dated.
Okay, yeah, maybe that was hurting it a little bit for me as well.
Probably a little bit.
Yeah. Well, we certainly thank George for all of the old classic suggestions, and
it's primarily him and Zorro Fanboy.
Yeah, Zorro Fanboy. I believe we're going to get to one of his soon. Now, next month we're doing a holiday listener's choice. So, if you have a Christmas or holiday themed movie you'd like us to review, go ahead and submit that. And then following that is Guilty Pleasure Month. And I think we've already got a few suggestions in for Guilty Pleasure Month.
More than enough, probably.
we may be all right on that, but it never hurts to send us more, so we can get on board with that. You can comment them here on the page, or head over to our Facebook group, Film Fanatics, with an exclamation point, or the Twitter feed at Film Fanatics Pod. Let's close our show with Battleground. That's our Oscar A to Z. It's a 1949 film nominated for 6 awards, including editing, Best Supporting Actor, Director, and Best Picture, and it won 2 of those 6, which is Black and White Cinematography and Best Writing. Joe, tell us about Battleground.
Well, first of all, it's got Ricardo Montalban in it,
young Montalban,
seriously young, but also just a really great cast of people of the time, and it primarily takes place with these soldiers going into the Battle of the Bulge and their siege throughout that time, and I think one of the reasons apparently this film was so significant is because it's the first film that was a big success based on World War II after the war actually ended. So one thing I noticed about it was that it was a lot less propaganda heavy than some of the previous World War II films we watched that were occurring during the war.
Yeah.
And that definitely helps because I think this film really balances out, the tension of the war. There's some genuine stakes there, but there's also, that strong Hollywood feel of the sense of adventure. It's definitely still Hollywoodized.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
But at the same time, we have really human characters and believable situations, and showing these guys not necessarily as 100% infallible heroes. They're complaining about what's going on. Some of them try to escape, get away from the front line. They're questioning things. They're concerned. They're fearful, and that's something you didn't see too much, especially from World War II at this point. This is the first film based on the war to really do that. And I think that's pretty significant. I think it's fun. Maybe a bit long, but then again, it's kind of going for an epic, big blockbuster of the time. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a very good war film. I leave it with a B+.
Okay, Justin?
Up until this point in the Bs, I was thinking honestly, unlike the A's, we haven't gotten a whole lot of war propaganda movies to sit through. Why on earth did I not knock on wood when I said that?
We just had 2 now, because Battle of Algiers was
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't quite propaganda, I guess, but it was...
More commentary.
It was government funded,
Yeah, it was government funded.
Yeah.
But,
Doesn't sound like a good one, Joe.
No.
it's certainly not Action in the North Atlantic, which is just rah, 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 go America, but...
True. No Massey, though.
And I mean, I gotta give it points for authenticity, but I feel like a lot of it is more or less just going through the same old. A lot of the actors, honestly, to me, felt a little bit amateurish at times. The set design and the effects I was really impressed with. Some of the cinematography at times as well. The propaganda edge definitely bothers me a little bit.
Oh, I think it's much more restrained than some of the other stuff.
It's more restrained, but it's definitely there, and I think it hurts it at times.
Well, to be fair, I feel a war film from the 40s that's kind of expected a little bit.
I mean, we had All Quiet on the Western Front in the 30s, so I mean...
Yeah, but that was a different war. Different time. Also
You're not wrong.
Also written from the German perspective, so,
But made by an American film company. But to get to my grade, I leave this one with a B-.
Well, I think that it was very interesting that the movie just really focused on the people the story was being told about. This is not an epic scope movie with hundreds of extras and this, that, and the other thing. We really got to know a lot of the people in the movie, which you can't say about a lot of the ones, certainly that we've seen for the Oscars. Mm-hmm. You learn about maybe a couple people here or there, but here we got a nice cross-cut here of a lot of different people in the war and what their background was and stuff. I do have to say, though, I can't really see the cinematography win. I didn't think the cinematography was that amazing. I don't know, obviously, what else was up in 1949, but I thought for a war picture, the cinematography wasn't, outstanding.
No. It was good, but it wasn't that good.
Yeah, I mean, that wasn't the special part to me. It was the less is more approach that we don't often see in war films. I'm sort of between you guys, both in grade and in my opinion on the propaganda nature of the film. I actually think, coming just a few years after the battle, it's depicting, obviously, the war the way that we saw it, but I didn't think it was that propaganda heavy. I don't think it was as light, I think, maybe as you, Joe, but I certainly don't think it was quite as heavy as Justin thought either. So I leave the movie with a B.
Yeah,
I mean, I do expect some notes of propaganda. It's a war movie from the 40s, like you said.
I mean, heck, we get movies now that are more propaganda heavy sometimes.
Yeah.
We call it American Sniper.
Yes.
Well, yes, actually, that's a perfect example. So, I think that for a film to come out during the 40s and be relatively restrained, I mean, obviously, it's not as gritty as some other films that came before it, and certainly a lot afterwards.
Yeah.
But I definitely think it was probably refreshing around this time to see that. And I also really did like some of the characters and some of the dialogue a lot, too. Stuck out to me.
No, the dialogue stands out. It's just I feel like the lack of actual talent kind of hurt it in that regard.
From the actors, you mean?
Correct.
I don't think that there were too many massively amazing actors. You're right, but I didn't think that there was anybody who was particularly bad either.
I don't think it was wince-inducing.
No.
Oh no, it wasn't that bad. But you could definitely tell a lot of these people were B actors.
Yeah, they were probably a bit green.
Yeah.
Montalban, though, sort of hid in the shadows there. He's so much younger in this than we're used to seeing him. We got lost along the way and wasn't sure if he was dead at one point.
Yeah, I don't know. But he was good.
Yeah, he was. He definitely was. I don't know if that's more of a problem with the filming aspect that we, couldn't... Because they were all obviously wearing the same, camouflage and everything and dirt on their faces. And it was, hard to tell sometimes one from the other. But I think you get that a lot in war pictures, certainly in the black and white era.
Oh, yeah.
Not a terrible addition to the Oscar A to Z.
No.
But obviously not a great one.
No.
Not quite.
All right, well, that will do it for the show this week. Like I said, we do have the Holiday Listener Choice coming up next month. In fact, next week we will start our rotation for the old classic with the holiday films. And we'll also be reviewing The Hunger Games Mockingjay Part 2 and another Christmas movie, Seth Rogen and Joseph Gordon-Levitt doing The Night Before. Honorable mention on my most anticipated last year. Oh, wow. Honorable mention just because I knew nothing about it. I just knew that the two of them were going to be in a Christmas movie. I thought,
so why not?
Probably going to be funny. And Anthony Mackie might redeem himself. Who knows? Joe, you've got the Merlin channel up. You're doing those news features every week, which is awesome.
Oh yeah, and I've got our Star Trek videos, and of course, all the reviews and analysis that's being requested. On usually a couple videos a week is what I'm aiming for.
Yeah, always something to look forward to there.
Always something.
And if you guys have not subscribed yet to our channel here on YouTube, go ahead and do that. And the Facebook group, as I mentioned earlier, Film Fanatics with an exclamation point, and the Twitter feed at Film Fanatics Pod. We'll see you back here next week. Thanks so much for listening. Bye.